Call now on Deputy Dessie Ellis, 20 minutes.
I'm very glad and honoured to speak as a Sinn Féin representative in support of this bill. I support ex-case legislation because I trust women. I support it because I feel very uncomfortable that I as a man can sit here in judgment on the rights or lack thereof of a woman who is pregnant. I trust women and their doctors to make the best choice for them. I do not fear that. It is by no means perfect, and it is in reality a tiny step for the rights of women, but it is a crucial one. It is a crucial step which should never have been in question in the first place, was necessitated by tragedy and won by hard, dignified and inspiring struggle by rights campaigners and those directly affected. In my speech on the Sinn Féin PMB relating to the X case last year, I paid tribute to those who brought us to this stage. I recognise and respect that finally a government is doing something about this. But if we are truthful, it required nudging from higher powers to put this issue on the priority list. That nudging would never have happened without the long campaigning of a small dedicated few who faced down threats, abuse and vilification to win this day 21 years after the ruling on the X case and 30 years on from the so-called pro-life amendment. These people ploughed lonely furrows and received little thanks, but through their work they have forced the state to move into the modern era, to begin to respect women and their rights, and to protect them as equal citizens deserving of protection. They, in most cases, were not simply campaigners for X, but for women's rights generally, for divorce, for contraception, equal pay, childcare, marriage equality, LGBT rights, and a better, more equal and just society. The people of Ireland owe these campaigners a debt, and it will be these people and those inspired by their legacy who will move Ireland still forward in the coming years. I am proud and glad that I stood with them on marches, at meetings and demonstrations in the past, and I stand with them today. I was very moved by the plight of Miss X. I was angered and shocked also that this young girl who had suffered so much could be treated so poorly and criminalised by her state and by a section of society. This disturbed me greatly. I have never been naive about the way this state treats marginalised, vulnerable people. I've dedicated my life's work to changing that. But still I found myself stirred. Miss X was 13 when she became pregnant by her abuser. Her family, in this very tragic situation, decided to bring her to Britain to terminate the pregnancy. I don't think anyone can truly understand what this must have been like for Miss X or for our family. This is one of the most horrible circumstances I can imagine, and I hope in vain that it is something which happens incredibly rare. I know that this hope is worthless, though, in a society where 1 in 4 women will experience a sexual assault in their lifetime. There is little doubt that similar cases to that of Miss X have happened before and since, and will unfortunately happen again. What made Miss X unique was that following a report to the DPP, the Attorney General callously pursued X and issued an order banning her from travelling for 9 months. In Ireland, it seems to this day that women's basic rights are conditional. Roughly 5,000 women every year go to Britain to have an abortion. I recently read a heartbreaking article detailing all the things that might go through the mind of a woman who makes that decision. It is dizzying to read before you contemplate the difficult circumstances a woman in this situation is already in. The big issues are actually a plethora of tiny issues, which today especially starts with, how can I afford it? This decision could easily cost €1,000, which is a great ask regardless of the motivation to seek an abortion. It is particularly monstrous to consider this being a concern for someone who has recently been raped or who has discovered that the baby that he hoped to bring into the world will never survive and will die in agony. Ireland, and by this I mean we gathered here, because the Irish people are way ahead of us. We must get serious about our responsibilities to women, all women. Those who have suffered this fate and those who every day are in danger of it because of the country they live in. I want to highlight my disgust recently at comments by Micheál Martin in an interview in the Journal in which he suggested women who were raped and became pregnant should take the morning after pill. His government only saw fit to make the morning after pill available by prescription in 2003. But more to the point, he needs to wise up and learn to have a little compassion. The idea that a victim of the most heinous of crimes should hours later just buck up and get down to boots, undergo a little questioning and pay if she has the money for the morning after a pill is an idea lacking the most basic decency. I expect little from Fianna Fáil, but I was disturbed and enraged by that statement, and I am disappointed by their lack of leadership in response to this bill. Sinn Féin does not have a pro-choice position. By European standards, we have a conservative position on abortion. We do not dig our heads in the sand, and we recognise that things must change. Our position as a party is, I believe, roughly where the Irish people are at. We have held this position many years, and recent polls clearly show that the majority of the Irish people agree. Women must have access to termination if their life is at threat, including suicide, if they are the victims of rape, or if a substantial risk to health as a parent. This is the meaning of pro-life, a term done a great disservice by those who send threats to TDs and campaigners, or picket family planning centres, or poster the Rape Crisis Centre. This bill is obviously not enough. Amendments will of course come, and I look forward to seeing it improve, but I must highlight my concerns at this opportunity. The ex-ruling clearly states that the threat of suicide is a criteria under which a woman has the right to termination of a pregnancy. This is a right utterly denied for 2 decades and attacked by Fianna Fáil when in government. That attack was rightly rejected by the people. The government must trust women and doctors and treat them with respect rather than suspicion. It must provide for access to termination in the case of suicidality, with the greatest level of understanding and humanity for the woman who is suffering. It must also recognise the reality of the Irish health system and the fact that hurdles as included in this bill could easily result in this right being inaccessible in nearly all cases. That is against the spirit of the ruling, and I think even the intention of this government. A lot has been said about abortion not being a treatment for suicidality, but this is a very thin argument. No one claims it is a treatment for enduring mental illness or suicidality, and to argue that is preposterous. In these cases where a woman wants to kill herself directly as a result of a pregnancy, rare or common, then doctors must act to save that woman in the same way they should act to save a woman experiencing life-threatening physical complications. To restrain a woman who is suicidal as a result of the despair brought on by an unwanted pregnancy and force her to carry that pregnancy to term is barbaric and unacceptable to any decent person. The possibility of criminalisation of women who procure an abortion outside of the law is also unacceptable. The fact that men are getting suspended sentence for brutal rapes, while the government is proposing a potential 14-year sentence for a woman procuring an abortion, is absolutely shocking. I think this is a grave mistake by the government, and I believe strongly that we'll see this in the coming stages, and this section should be replaced. Criminalisation of women is not something we should do. We must continue to push forward to a situation where women can be open about their experiences and know that they do not face persecution. That kind of situation can only be beneficial to our society, how we treat women and how we view their rights. The government must end the injustice of forcing women who have been told that their child has a fetal abnormality and will not survive to travel to England, to have the remains shipped home or smuggled on the ferry. This should not even be a debate. Groups like TMFR have made their case clearly and completely. Members of this House have directly experienced this tragedy. I hope this can be done now as part of the bill. Abortion is divisive in Ireland, and many will say this in their comments, but the X case is not divisive. The people are behind us. They want a fair and humane approach to a woman's right to termination in these cases. The tiny minority opposed to this may be loud and may be genuine in their concerns, but they should not be allowed to browbeat us or scare us or write the narrative that we must fear to do what is right. I will not be browbeaten, and I will stand with anyone in this House who is targeted in this way. I want to express my solidarity with members who have been abused in this way. You have experienced only a small portion of the boil levelled at campaigners on this issue. But it is unacceptable in a democratic society and cannot be allowed to influence the passage of just legislation which provides for the rights of women to feel safe and to be protected. Romaldo.